Hello everyone, Sable here back again with the first match of week 6 of UUCL. There were 3 matches scheduled this week, but spoiler, only 2 of them got played. The last one was myself versus Tay, and I think we were both feeling very burnt out. Tay's team was 0-5 and lost the week before our scheduled time, so with his team being extremely out, 6 week losses is brutal. We decided not to play the match. So, yeah, only 2 matches to cover this week, and the first of those is Tree69420 versus Maris. So Tree, longtime UU player, has won individuals in RBY UU, mostly been playing like SV UU and stuff like that lately, but subbing in here for Melbell. I think Melbell has also gotten kind of sick of this tournament. Some of her games were pretty egregious RNG-wise, so getting sick of it and Tree subbing in, so we'll see how this one goes. Gilderoy lead, Moltres lead. So this is definitely Molt favored, but a lot more swingy than having a Pokemon that's faster than, or at least tied with Dodrio in the lead, indicating probably a pretty aggressive team from Tree if you're leading Moltres. On Maris' side, a little harder to call, although Dodrio is a pretty aggressive lead. And there's a Slowbro to back it up to switch into bad matchups like this, I suppose, which makes sense because Fires are the worst lead matchups for Dodrio pretty much. So Slowbro makes me think Slowbro, Hypno, and then probably some Para support. But here, Hypno gonna come in on presumably a T-Wave, and Tree just willing to play the Hypnosis Lottery on this Slowbro, which obviously Maris doesn't want to give it up that easily because it will wall this Hypno after Sleep gets clicked, and Tree getting it in one try. Maris staying one turn, probably expecting a T-Wave, but Tree just attacking, and now surely gonna click T-Wave on this turn. Because why wouldn't you? Okay, I guess not, but crit is a pretty good outcome if you don't click T-Wave there. And Mars expecting Tree to switch out of this matchup. That's pretty bad for him, but he just goes for a T-Wave and makes it a lot better because now Seismic Toss can force rest. So I think the intentions on both sides are made very clear by this sequence of turns, where Tree's intent is to force rest, and Mars's intent is to force through with Slowbro. So nice T-Wave call there. Slowbro was faster, so it wasn't like screwed if the Hypno stayed in and attacked again. She could have rested on the next turn, although it would have been forced. But now this looks a lot worse for Tree than it did a moment ago. And now it looks a lot better. But now it looks a lot worse. Okay, so after a lot of ping-ponging back and forth, it equalizes out into Persian being paralyzed and Slowbro resting. Persian actually can break through Slowbro if it doesn't para here, but after that first para, it's already looking pretty awful. Maris just has to set up one more time, and then she has pretty free-looking rests. Tree's gonna need to hit slash twice through para, or just Maris will just kill it and not even mess around trying to get her HP back, which I think is probably correct. Dodrio can OHKO this with a Hyper Beam, but it's so forced that Maris is just gonna switch out and try to catch it. No crit for Tree, so probably here comes T-Wave. And with that, Slowbro back to being a huge threat with everything kind of getting weakened and para'd in front of it. Tree wisely setting up an agility here. I think you have to do that to not let Slowbro just get away with everything. And para in front of Kang. Now you probably just throw Hyper Beam at it because you can't really get out here and do anything. Tree's team definitely living up to being very aggressive. Maris's team looking like a lot of physical offense and some T-Wave support. I wouldn't be surprised if the last two were things that had consistent paralysis moves. Like, probably there's an electric type. I don't think there's a Lapras. But like, I wouldn't be surprised if it was like Raichu Dragonite, if it was Electabuzz instead of Raichu, if it was who else has moves like that? I don't think it's a Clefable in back. I don't know. I'm not gonna pause too long thinking about it, but I'm expecting Para in the back. Could be like I had a thought for a second. I think like a grass type wouldn't be unreasonable, but I think I'd probably expect like an electric and a flyer, most likely. The flyer being Dragonite, because that's the one that has T-Wave. Tree just going to go straight with it for agility with Moltres and hopefully not take a para for his troubles, and does not. And Slowbro can't hard switch into this. Slowbro can come in now, though, and click T-Wave into rest pretty safely. Unless there's a crit. No crit. Just hard rest. No T-Wave first is interesting to me. I guess maybe expecting like Hypno to come in on that, but I feel like that would have still worked out pretty well. And Tree just looking for the crit. Crit Fire Blast puts this in range, and there it is. I believe Hyper Beam just barely gets it now, which means that this is going to be a forced switch, and Hypno should just barely tank this most times. Yeah. So Hypno did indeed barely tank that. If this is Rest Hypno, then I feel bad for Tree because he's probably about to experience what I experience with the Moltres paralyzing a million times, and would you look at that? So, yeah, when Maris clicks Rest in front of Moltres, I think the game just decides to give her everything. So someone on Pokemon Showdown has money on her winning because look at this. Finally getting one through Para. That's better than I did, Tree, so congrats. Keep in mind, Moltres is now slower than Slowbro, but Tree calling it out with the agility, and now probably going to Hyper Beam again into Hypno. But you could crit, so I think you have to go for it. Yep, so there it is. Moltres now faster than Hypno, notably, so like Hypno resting here is actually not at all guarantee of safety, as long as Moltres doesn't para over and over or just miss. But I'm telling you, when Maris clicks Rest with Hypno, some greater force is looking out for her because it seems to get away with it every time. And no drop, so Tree's got one more chance here, but Para's yet again. I think Tree para'd or missed Fire Blast on like 5 or 6 out of 7 or 8 turns there. It's horrible. And he's actually out of Fire Blast PP, which is why the Hyper Beams are coming through. So his last chance here is just to crit this. And Mars gonna give up Raichu HP rather than mess around with any of that. I don't know if that's right. Like, interesting. Okay, she's got her own agility Raichu, so that makes more sense. You do this and then get some more pressure, but Hypno is probably going to come in and just take this out, right? Or Dragonite, I guess. I think either way, I guess the idea from Tree is Dragonite stops Slowbro coming in, but just missing the attack. No T-Wave on this Raichu, where you surely would have clicked it to set up your other stuff. But Dragonite just losing 80% of its HP from one miss and one crit, so Tree getting really unlucky in this game. And now kind of just needs the world to go his way. I think here the problem is Slowbro can come in, right? And he's going to double back, but she's probably not going to switch, yeah. And of course she doesn't because she was already, Tree wouldn't have switched first in that case. Yeah, so she makes a call out on a pretty obvious double that Tree can do, but I think Tree does have to kind of go for moves like that. So they're going to trade down here, and then you just hope that Tree's last can do something about this Slowbro, or it's over. And a crit, but no drop, so that kind of evens out the game. And Kuno on the expected rest turn. And I think the problem with that play is there's no reason Maris has to rest to win this. Just getting the free Slowbro rest wins. And there's a victory bell, so she throws that into Kuno and it dies. The crit kind of didn't matter. I don't think it would have died to, hang on. Right here, I just want to see what pops up when it, yeah, so that still would have KO'd it in 2 hits, even with the drop, which is very funny. But Slowbro is going to come in now, and Hyper Beam I don't think kills here because Moltres has a higher amount of damage. Yeah, Hyper Beam comes up short by a few percent. So Kuno can't quite do this while Moltres could have, and now here's going to come another rest. And the Slowbro is just going to loop everything now, and I think this was inevitable regardless. So I think Tree got a bit too aggressive with trying to call out the Slowbro coming in when the Slowbro never had to risk anything like a crit Psychic or something on entry. Could have taken it out. So she has no reason not to just sack Hypno and then get Slowbro in the safe way. But the game really telling Tree how you thought you could bring Moltres plus Kuno and Maris, good luck. The same thing happened to me last week where my guys decided to whiff everything too. So Tree getting punished for bringing the same team that actually honestly looks pretty good in her team overall, even if Slowbro is a pretty bad matchup for it. There's a Persian and a Dodrio to pressure the Slowbro. And her whole team looks pretty awful in the Persian, but no such luck for Tree here. Doesn't work out his way. And that's game 1. Goes her way. Not too much else to say. Tree doing the Molt Kuno Lapras idea, kind of like me, but very different Pokemon besides it. This team could also be characterized as a flying spam team with 4 flyers, which bold in the era of Lapras, but dodges the Lapras in this game, so it kind of works. But even so, just does not work out when the Slowbro and the Hypno manage to dodge a lot of stuff, so unlucky for him. I do like Maris's team overall. I think there's like good coverage in terms of weaknesses and resistances here from these Pokemon. I do think it's a slow team though overall, and that's a problem. Like Persian and Doug Trio both kind of just maul this team. Persian through everything, and Doug Trio kind of like mostly once the Dodrio, which is in the lead and not likely to stick around, goes, the Doug Trio starts becoming really scary. But Persian could have mauled this team. I think she made a very heads up T wave to stop that from happening. So that was like a very good play by her. But overall, I think just like the Hypno getting away with murder versus the Moltres was mostly where this game went off the rails for Tree. So unfortunate, but we're in the game too. Let's see how that goes. Buzz lead, Dodrio lead, so advantage for Tree. I don't think that Maris is going to play around with trying to call out Body Slam, and Tree not going to play around with predicts either, just goes for a T-Bolt. And now going to wave the Hypno, so looking for some early chip and T-Wave on that. Maris not accepting the easy, quote-unquote, easy sleep target. And Para into Psychic Drop, so this is a horrible start for Tree, very unlucky. Goes out to Hypno. And I wonder if he's just going to pivot back. But no, he just goes for it. So if she hits sleep here, this game looks really bad already. But that para is big. I would probably consider going back to Buzz now and not messing around with this. Okay, so now we got a 50-50 speed tie. And she doesn't want to play that. And neither does Tree. And Tree getting the better of it here for sure. Until that crit, which just flips that entirely on its head. Okay, so that's like the worst possible outcome for Tree, I would say, because now he is sleep blocked on probably Maris's ideal target, and Maris crits the Lapras down to very low HP. Like, pretty much it couldn't be worse, because the Dodrio doesn't get forced to recharge, which I'm not even sure if that's card accurate. I feel like when you do that, you should. I guess maybe not because of the Hyper Beam, like, sleep on recharge glitch. Maybe it's actually intended behavior. Either way, she goes to Hypno and sacks it right away, which makes sense. You want to preserve your slept Mon. And not much wants to switch into Lapras, so she takes the safe route, get Kang in, and now this Buzz is going to go down. I'm not really sure why Tree is saving Lapras, but I guess it's not paralyzed, and that's enough of a reason in that if like Kang or whatever gets paralyzed, it'll do damage. The big problem for Tree, I think, is that Sleep is on the table against him, and I don't think that Hypno is the right go. I think you need to save this to Sleep block and crit and para, and he loses the full Hypno for free. That's really cool. Yeah, Tree getting some pretty awful luck in this game. Getting crit multiple times, losing entire mons for free, and now Sleep is on the table against him. Drill Peck's expecting a potential counter, and you barely lose any damage for it, of course, but now, like, this just gets worse and worse, and Hyper Beam comes out, but Haunter comes in. You probably should Drill Peck again, but not wanting to mess around with losing the Dodrio, and now Dragonite, if it gets put to sleep, that's just like the end of the game. So pivoting to Lapras, she's basically clicking all the safe plays because she's so far ahead now from the crits that she can kind of just do that. So she doesn't really have to gamble at all here. I don't see much that Tree can do about this. Like, you just have to crit everything repeatedly to win this game. You have to Drill Peck crit this Haunter, you have to Hyper Beam crit the other things. So Tree's surely just going to go for it at this point and does not get it, so he loses. I don't think there's much that you can do with RNG like that. I think that this was just not very playable. So Kuno gonna have to dodge Boom, really. And even then it wouldn't get a turn to set up, so not much chance it's gonna beat a 56% Lapras. And yet another crit. Not that that one matters especially much, but Tree really not getting any breaks here. So Tree with another like very flying spam team, which definitely is a bit of a problem into the Lapras, but it's less of a problem if you don't lose your mons to crits. I do think sending the Hypno on the Kang was a mistake and very premature. I think probably you should just go straight to either your Kuno or your Dragonite if you want to click Para on it or something. But overall, like, I do think he just got unlucky in these games, and that made it very hard to play in the first place. Maris's team looks pretty aggressive, Dodrio, Kang, Haunter, but there's not much of a comment that could be made without seeing that last. So yet another two-game series, and I've been noticing a lot of the series lately seem to be like one person gets the edge RNG-wise in game one, and then game two gives them even more of an edge. So hard to comment too much on these games. UUCL definitely not being the best representation of RBY UU, but as I've said, it's the first tournament of a new metagame. I'm sure we'll iron out the wrinkles in our games, but definitely hard to get as excited for this as UPL, which I think was a very fun Ubers tournament. But oh well, that's the end of this one. We've got one more match to cover this week, so I'll see you tomorrow for that one. In the meantime, click the buttons. Bye.